Hey y'all, it's Amanda, and welcome back to Innocence Investigations, where we look beyond the biased media reporting to find the truth in cases of innocence and wrongful convictions. I'm excited to provide updates in the cases I've previously covered. Please take a minute to like and subscribe. It's a free way you can spread the word of injustice and alert more people to the fact that our criminal justice system is broken, and together we can make a change. So let's get into today's video. I am so excited to share this new update in the Pervis Payne case. Last year, on November 23rd, 2021, Pervis was removed from death row. So you're probably...
Court back to session.
Okay, so we're here on the Pervis Payne matter.
So you're probably asking yourself, how did we get here? Last video, he was awaiting on a new execution date. Pervis Payne's attorney, Kelly Henry, was in court numerous times over the past year to have him evaluated for his intellectual disability, as it is now unconstitutional in the state of Tennessee to execute someone who is intellectually disabled. Although that law wasn't in place when Pervis was convicted of his crime, they are still trying to ensure that Tennessee holds up the law as far as he's concerned. And she has fought years to apply this law to his case. Forensic evaluation was ordered by a judge in Memphis, and against all odds, the Shelby County District Attorney's Office finally admitted that he was in fact intellectually disabled, and they declared that the death sentence would no longer be sought in his case. The same District Attorney's Office who has fought for years to execute this man, who would likely not be here today if it were not for the pandemic putting a stay on his execution. His sister also stated that after hearing the news when she was only 13 years old in that same courtroom, she sat and heard the judge sentence him to death by the electric chair, and she was able to sit in that same courtroom at 47 years old to hear the judge say that Pervis Payne is no longer on death row.
Findings of the experts in this matter that he is intellectually disabled. So the death sentences are hereby vacated or set aside.
The district attorney's office requested that the court commute his death sentence to consecutive life terms, which means he would serve them back to back. However, his attorney argued that this would be grossly unfair to Mr. Payne, who's innocent and should have never been given the death penalty to begin with. Pervis's dad, Pastor Carl Payne, who is nearly 80 years old now, was able to hug his son for the very first time without an execution date hanging over their heads. His family says every year at the holidays, his mom, who is now passed, would always say, "Pervis is coming home this year." It has taken far too long, but we're closer than we've ever been to Pervis actually coming home. Judge Paulus Gaines later decided that his sentence would run concurrently, which means he will serve the two death sentences at the same time instead of back to back. And because of this ruling, Pervis will be eligible for parole in just 5 years. I have added the link to the court order if you wanted to go and check it out yourself. I know that parole is a long way from exoneration, but I feel like this is just one step closer to him being reunited with his family. This journey will continue until we uncover the truth and Pervis is fully exonerated. Of course, I will keep you updated on any new information in his case. Now for an update on the Angel Bumpass case. Many of you have been hoping to hear that she was released. I'm happy to say she is also one step closer to her freedom. On August 31st, 2022, just a few months ago, Judge Tom Greenholtz of the Hamilton County Criminal Court found several issues in the Angel Bumpass case. The court observed that enough of these issues had accumulated throughout the proceedings to warrant a new trial, but it refrained from completely reversing her conviction altogether. I have also provided a copy of the court order in the description box, so if anyone wants to read it in its entirety, you can find it there, but I'm going to go over the main points that you need to know. The court decided that the overall impact of the errors in her case supported the granting of a new trial, although it did maintain that the evidence was sufficient to sustain the conviction. The court argued that over time, minor mistakes would not normally compromise a trial, such as in this case, especially when the trial process is very brief. And in this case, jury selection actually began on October 1st, 2019, and the jury returned a verdict on October 3rd, 2019, which is very, very fast if any of you have watched live trials. They found that the trial judge should have sequestered the witnesses prior to their testimony. If you've ever seen a live trial before, then you know that normally before a witness testifies, they're not allowed in the courtroom and they're not allowed to hear testimony from any of the other witnesses. However, they do normally allow you to stay inside the courtroom once you're done giving your testimony. But in this case, the witnesses were allowed to be in the courtroom prior to giving their testimony, which means they were allowed to hear everyone else's testimony. And Angel's attorneys could have requested that they be sequestered, but they never did. The court found that Angel's grandfather made statements that were especially damaging to the defendant in this case. So the court found that because Bayless Smith said 3 times during his testimony that this did not look good for his granddaughter, her attorneys could have asked for a mistrial due to that testimony. However, they failed to do so. Angel's attorney originally objected to this testimony on relevance, but after initially being overruled, they never objected again. The court stated that this testimony was actually damaging to Angel's case in the eyes of the jury because it showed that even her family was certain of her guilt. Another minor problem was the yearbook photo that I showed you in my original video. After quite a bit of legal back and forth, jurors were finally allowed to see it in trial, but it was never treated as an official exhibit in the case. Unless it's entered as an exhibit, it can't be used as part of the decision-making process as far as a verdict goes. And it was stated in the motion that while the court should have allowed the photograph in as an exhibit, it did not believe that the exclusion of this photograph by itself would be enough to grant her a new trial. But it's also stated that the court does recognize how important this piece of information was as far as her defense was concerned. Prosecution had asked an investigator whether the defense in this case had asked for a DNA analysis on the hair found in the tape near Angel's fingerprint. And although the co-defendant's attorneys objected to this question, Angel's attorneys didn't. And the court decided that the question actually elicited information that would be inadmissible in court. And again, they did not find that this issue alone would have been enough to grant her a new trial, but all of these issues combined were a huge problem in this case. Instead of Angel being innocent until proven guilty, the court actually stated that this trial was more about the defendant having to prove her innocence. The judge also listed several instances in which he found the state's presentation deficient. He included a lack of connection between Angel Bumpass and Mr. Bonner. It included a lack of connection between Angel Bumpass and the co-defendant, and no link between Angel and the co-defendant around the time of Mr. Bonner's death. They actually go on to state that the state never provided a link between Angel Bumpass and Mallory Vaughn or any other person that could have been involved in this robbery. The only link between these two people, are you ready for this? Is a Facebook connection between Mallory Vaughn and Cordarrelle Bumpus that existed 10 years after this crime was committed. Now, I'm not sure who this individual is besides somehow related to her. I'm not sure if it's a brother. I haven't had time to dig that deeply, but that was literally the only link they had, and that didn't occur till 10 years after the crime was committed. The court decided that even though this third-party link was there, it was such a weak connection to Angel herself, and it diminished the weight of the evidence that supported her conviction, which we all know is slim to none. Also, Mr. Bonner's wife denied ever seeing Angel Bumpass before, and although the state was able to link Angel Bumpass's aunt to Mr. Bonner, Miss Bonner denied Angel ever coming to her house with her aunt. And they also state that the link through Shirley Bumpass, Angel's grandmother, was not substantial and should have been excluded altogether, which is crazy to me because she was literally the last person to talk to the victim before he was murdered. But they made that point to say that the proof showed that other individuals beside Angel Bumpass had a direct connection to the victim, but those connections did not prove that Angel ever had one. So they attribute that to being a very weak point in the state's case, and they do not believe that it helps uphold the evidence that secured her conviction. So Angel Bumpass was granted a new trial, primarily because there was no proof of intent to commit this crime, which then made the minimum requirements for presenting the evidence that they did in court as insufficient. The judge also stated that due to the overwhelming nature of evidence against defendants in many cases involving accusations of compound error, the claim frequently fails, but that is not the case in Angel Bumpass's conviction. Her case is on the trial docket to begin this Thursday, November 3rd, and I'm hoping they actually televise her trial. I doubt they will because they didn't last time, but if they do, I will be back to give you daily recaps on what happened in the trial. Regardless, I will be covering the trial start to finish. Now, don't take my word as gospel, because anybody knows that in the court system, just because a date is set does not mean it won't get pushed back or continued. But as of the time I'm recording this video, her case is set on the trial docket for this Thursday. And I know I just did the Nathaniel Rowland case a couple weeks ago, but I'm also happy to announce that an update in his case is that he has gotten a new attorney who is going to handle his appeal. I have spoken to Nate since both videos on this case were released. He is in good spirits considering everything that he's dealing with right now. He is so thankful for all the support from all of you out there. I'm currently working on spreading the word of yet another conviction with little to no evidence. So if you have any connections, news, anything, any ideas on how to get the word out there, leave it in the comments. Let me know. And once his attorney files an appeal in his case, I will of course update you on all of that. and then we can talk more in detail about his alibi that defense attorneys did not allow him to present in court. I also want to take a minute to say thank you for the support of not only myself, but also the individuals that I've covered on this channel. I have yet another what the media does not want you to know about, a very popular case that I guarantee all of you have heard of. And I will give you a little hint that I actually thought this individual was guilty until like a month ago. So this is new. My whole stance on this individual's innocence is very new, and I'm sure a lot of people will have something to say. So I'm excited to see your opinions on this new case because you will all be familiar with it. Hope I'll be bringing you some information that you've never heard before, but you will not want to miss it. So make sure
like and subscribe. Also, place on all notifications so you never miss one of my mom's videos.
and I will see you next Thursday.